I will start this story with a question. Is Russia getting ready for war in Ukraine? It is a question that has been worrying the West. There has been a massive troop buildup along Ukraine's borders. But if we go by Vladimir Putin's words, Moscow doesn't want any conflict with Ukraine. According to the Russian president, Moscow is trying to avoid any conflicts with both Ukraine and the West. Last week, Russia presented the West with sweeping security demands. It said that NATO must not admit new members. Moscow says Ukraine joining the military alliance will be a red line. The other demands was for the United States to stop establishing new bases in former Soviet countries. For Russia, the onus is on the West. It must provide Moscow with security guarantees to avoid confrontation. So what does the U.S. think about these proposals? Washington says that it is willing to discuss some of them, but calls a few proposals unacceptable. U.S. has also insisted that European allies must be part of the talks. For Putin, this willingness to discuss the proposals is a positive sign. Russia says Washington is ready for talks in Geneva. Reports suggest they will begin next month. Putin says representatives from both sides have been appointed.
In this regard, I would like to underline that in general we have seen a positive reaction so far. Our American partners tell us they are ready to start this discussion, these talks, in the very beginning of the next year in Geneva. Representatives from both sides have already been appointed. I hope the development of the situation will proceed along that path.
Tensions have been slowly building over Ukraine since mid-November. This was when Washington sounded the alarm over a massive Russian troop buildup. Countries accused Putin of planning an invasion. Putin, on the other hand, claims it is impossible to have relations with the Ukraine government, adding that President Volodymyr Zelensky is under the influence of radical forces.
Теперь с ними отказываются просто разговаривать. Объявляют их террористами и говорят, разговаривать с ними не будем.
They simply refuse to talk to these people. They call them terrorists and say they won't talk to them. Tell us why. Because instead of meeting people's needs in peace and using this mood in the Ukrainian society, President Zelensky came to power and instead of meeting the needs, got under the influence of radical nationalistic forces, just like the previous authorities.
Под влияние радикальных элементов.
These comments were made at the annual year-end news conference while Putin blamed the West for talk of war. He did not escalate tensions further. These year-end news conferences are a long-time tradition. They are usually a marathon where Putin answers questions for hours on end. But this time it only lasted for 3 hours and 56 minutes. For Putin, any Ukraine rhetoric is about nostalgia, a generational nostalgia for the old empire, the Soviet Union. Vladimir Putin was a KGB agent for the Soviet Union. He has described its collapse 3 decades ago as the greatest geopolitical disaster of the 20th century. This is where the roots of the conflict emerge. No part of the Soviet Union is more important than Ukraine. For most Russians, it is the crown jewel. Its deep cultural and linguistic ties to Russia and its position between Moscow and EU makes it crucial. It all boils down to Moscow's unwillingness to accept Ukraine's independence. When Russia annexed Crimea in 2014, it was a turning point, the beginning of the undeclared war between the two sides. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.